South West Sydney continues to grow. The way we shape our cities, it must evolve, with cleaner, greener and brighter outcomes at the heart of every decision. Today's panel brings together leaders from water, planning, development and community living to explore how we can build places that are not only livable, but truly sustainable. I'll invite the panellists to come to stage as I call your name. First up, Louise, Acting Executive General Manager, Water and Environmental Services from Sydney Water. Bob Browne, General Counsel, Land Lease Living Industry Association of New South Wales. I've known Bob a long time, and if he's not the nicest bloke in the world, he's definitely in the top 3. You reckon? Top 3. Tom Fehon, he's the Development Director of Western Sydney from Stockland. Now, this panel will be guided by Provocateur extraordinaire Amanda Harvey, who heads up the Western Sydney team for Mecone. Ladies and gentlemen, join me in welcoming the next panel to discuss how development can be done differently.
Thank you. I don't know about extraordinaire, but we'll go with that one for today. I hope everyone's feeling energised because this is the last session. It's probably the most important one, is that right? Yes, good. I'll get on the board. So maybe I'll just do a bit of an introduction on what we're going to talk about, so just to get you in the mood. I think today's theme about development done differently is really important because we want challenges to make us think outside the box. It's about moving beyond what we do as business as usual, but we also want to embrace innovation, sustainability, collaboration, all the things, right? But it's about growing where we come with responsibility attached to it. And I think today's questions, we want to sort of probe some of those with our panel members. So why don't I shoot off with a couple of questions. First one is, I'm going to shoot this to you, Louise. And Sydney Water's really busy at the moment. I know you're waiting on our part. We've got a $1 billion investments coming your way. I don't want to put too much pressure on you. But Sydney Water's investing heavily in infrastructure. How is Sydney Water ensuring these investments align with sustainability and resilience goals for South West Sydney?
Thank you. Great question, and such an important area. You drive around and literally green fields. It's a really beautiful spot. And so thinking about how we align the infrastructure needs matters a lot, particularly because things like the trunk infrastructure you need for water takes a while to get into the ground and be ready for our communities. So we work in really closely with the Greater Sydney, well, New South Wales Government more broadly to deliver the Greater Sydney Water Strategy. That lets us think about resilience principles around making sure we're ready for the next drought. It feels crazy to say that when it keeps raining. But how do we support communities with enough water for green places to ultimately be independent of rainfall? So that overarching coordination of planning matters a lot, and certainly also then for our wastewater treatment plants and increasingly around stormwater management, which is a great resource too. So.
Great. Bob, I'm going to put a question to you about how communities are more inclusive and sustainable in Western Sydney. How do you see the balance between affordability, environmental responsibility, and not only the legal framework evolving over the next decade that's going to help us bring South West Sydney to be at the forefront of great development?
Land Lease is doing it differently. It is significantly different to ordinary subdivisions, so I might just go through and explain where it comes from. If you can remember, or anyone know of a caravan park, that's where it started off. People started living in caravan parks. In 1986, they then introduced legislation to allow people to live in there. In early 1992, they introduced another ordinance that allowed for the establishment of things we know of as manufactured home estates. You don't know of them in the Sydney region because you're not allowed to have a manufactured home estate in the Sydney region. Now, that restriction was put in there in 1992 because of the problems of 1990. Anyone remember paying 7.5% interest rates on home loans? And those financial problems made sure by the couple of the areas are saying, well, look, we don't want our workers or our bricklayers to be out of work. having these new ones come in. We'll restrict it so you can't have any in the Sydney region. So you won't see any in the Sydney region, but Tom will talk to you later on about one that looks like one and will be called one, but is allowed within the Sydney region. Now, the different development is that the operator owns all the land. The overall piece of land is divided into sites, and people come along and put their own home that they bought, and they rent the site from the operator. So it's quite different to the normal house land sale, and therefore we've got a different offer to a lot of people that are giving them housing that they haven't been able to get before, because they're only paying for the home. They're paying a site fee. Most people that are retired on pensions will be getting rental assistance from the Commonwealth Government as well. So it is different, and it's been attractive in terms of New South Wales. We've got over 40,000 people living in land lease communities, in probably about 140,000 around Australia living in these communities. And I think that's the opportunity that there is for the Sydney region and this area. We've been discussing with the government for a number of years now of removing that restriction, and we're waiting on the couple of planning reviews that are going on together with the building reviews. The houses that are within these communities are manufactured homes, and they're subject to controls under local government regulation. What we're looking at in terms of the building reforms of bringing them within the modern methods of construction, so that they take on not a different look, but a different control in terms of their manufacture and their building. So that's what can be provided. Who can they be provided to? The people that are the 40,000 in New South Wales, 130,000 around Australia are retirees, because they've got the money. They can sell their home and then downsize and then go into these communities. First home buyers can't do it because they haven't got the cash. So what we're looking at is providing some financial institution support so that first home buyers can get in and live in these land lease communities. Use that as the first stage of their occupation of homes. Like in previous, or what happens at the moment, you might want to buy a 30, 40-year-old apartment and then go the next stage, getting the capital gain out of that and then buying the house and the land. What we've got is an opportunity here for first home buyers. We've got an opportunity for workers to get involved, and particularly in these areas where you need accommodation for workers, that you can have the downsizers sell out and then be able to move into these communities. So I think they're the opportunities in this region. We can't do it at the moment, but we're continuing to talk with government and subject to those two major reviews with the building and also the local government review.
Great. It's obviously housing that we need in different forms all over the place. I feel like it's the movie Everything Everywhere All at Once, maybe, that we need to be thinking about housing on all fronts, and that's just one added one, right? Yeah,
I think there's the other issue in terms of infrastructure. I think 3 or 4 mentioned today. Yep. There's been a lot of work, and in particular one group have done it. They set up what they call as VPPs, that's virtual power plants, where they generate their own electricity. Obviously with a lot of roofs, you've got access to solar. They use that within the community, they control it, they have appliances supported by it, but also they get an opportunity to feed into the grid as they produce over there. And I suppose from Louise's point of view, we need to look at the next opportunity of how we harvest the water and use that within the communities. So I think they're the major challenges, but great opportunities for this area to take on manufactured home estates or land lease communities.
Great. I'm going to pose a question to Tom. Stockland's work in Western Sydney includes some large-scale mixed-use projects. It's been ongoing in Northwest, and now Southwest seems to be where you're moving to. How are you embedding sustainability and livability into those new projects?
Thanks, Amanda. Stockland's got a proud history of over 70 years where sustainability and livability has been core to what we do. I know everyone's keen to get to lunch, so I'm not going to give you a year-by-year blow of what that looked like. But if we fast forward to 2 years ago, in 2023, we launched a refreshed ESG strategy. And Tarun Gupta, our managing director, was very clear that it needed to have a very clear focus and ability for our teams to be able to navigate what that strategy outlined for our focus areas in real tangible ways. So the 4 key pillars are in decarbonisation, circularity, resilience, and social impact. And so what does that look like on the ground? 70 years ago, we weren't doing a climate risk assessment at the point of looking at a new development site to see. I think there was a question earlier for the MacPack group, which is clearly becoming one of the favourite panels today, around what are we doing looking at bushfire and flooding moving forward. Well, what we're doing is when we're looking to invest in a new development opportunity, running a risk assessment to understand what exists there today and is likely or possibly going to exist there in the future based on climate projections and the like. What are we doing from the ground up on our development sites now in the southwest and northwest? We're fueling up our machinery with biodiesel. We have procurement specialists in our organisation who are securing at scale to achieve economic efficiencies, agreements for things like biodiesel, but also green concrete, so that we can deliver lower embodied carbon projects without having an increased price tag. On the livability front, I know we're not alone in caring about livability. There's a number of great other developers in the room today. Walker, Cameron Bray, Landcom, to name a few, and I expect that livability is front and centre for all of them. And since 2011, Stockland have been doing a national livability survey in all of our communities. We now partner with RMIT on that to analyse the feedback from our residents in what matters most to them and benchmark that across the insights RMIT have from communities all across Australia to help us understand exactly what matters most to our communities so that our teams know where to focus their energy. And I will make my last reference to the MacPack group now. There was obviously a bit of competition amongst the different councils there, which is healthy. And I'd like to hope that amongst the other, developers in the southwest, we also have a level of healthy competition when it comes to livability, because that's just going to lead to great outcomes for the residents of southwest Sydney.
Great. I'm going to ask some of the questions that are coming up in some of the Slido chats, and I'm going to put one to Louise. One of them's about when will the critical Upper Nepean Advanced Water Recycling Centre be completed and operable, or is that a question that TBC soon?
Let's go with TBC.
Yeah, the funding is still, okay. That's that one answered.
Not one I can answer.
No. I think the answer is what we want it to be. It's not always the case, right? I'm going to come back to yourself, Bob. I think, Lease Communities is contributing to more inclusive and sustainable urban development. Aside from the smaller housing, what else do you think we should be doing in southwest Sydney?
In terms of land lease, I think you need to look at the different products that are available, and they could be large-scale products in terms of 100, 200 sites, as against smaller ones, but also geared towards the retirees. We've got a significantly growing market. In fact, even these communities have been open to over 55s or over 50s. We're now getting the children of baby boomers coming into them now. So we've got a long line of opportunity, and there seems to be a push towards those communities with their common facilities, all the care facilities within there as well. But what the other area, I think I touched on it before, is that ability to provide the housing for workers, and whether it be the operator providing the sites and renting the sites out to somebody who spent the capital, or to an investor buying up all the homes and then renting them out for that group of people. So you're able to bring those workers closer to your different communities. I think that's the extent of what we could provide through those housing options. But they're different size housing. They're not all 5-bedroom homes. They can be smaller ones, they can be larger, they can be factory built, or they can be built on site. But that again gets us through to the next part of what's going to happen with the legislative reviews on at the moment. I think we wanted to discuss the issues. We've got the controls at the moment are through the local government regulation that deals with, and that's how it's been since 1986. They need to get it out of there, get it more within the planning regime. There are some amendments that need to be put through the housing SEP to allow the developments in this area, and also to change a couple of definitions. But going alongside that is the modern methods of manufacture of homes that will be part of that building review. We would hope that something's going to happen in the next month, 12 months. We don't know at the moment, but we've been working on that for some long time. If there's any support that we can get, the industry can get through each of these areas that are looking for opportunities, it's a matter of approaching the association, and we can put you in contact with those who are interested in developing it. Tom's talked about Stockland doing a major one in the called the Gables in the Hills District in the Sydney region, but they've done it under another planning policy, but it will be a land lease community. That is something within the metropolitan area that we can look at saying, look, this is important. And I know that the planning people see it as important, and one of the reasons they need to bring the change about. So let's find a way to support them. In terms of who's involved in the development of these, I had read an article last week. There are 11 new developers involved in this industry throughout Australia. That's over the last 12 months. Stockland, Mirvac, Gem Life, Ingenia, Hometown Australia, Lincoln Place, Alum Homes, all of those groups are involved in that significant development. The problem we've got in New South Wales is that we don't have that ability to do the peri-urban, all these areas around Sydney, whereas in Melbourne and Brisbane it's quite easy to do, quite different, and you can do it there without the restrictions. So if we need your help, we need to be able to call on you.
That's a big challenge to step outside the metro rural area. Tom, I'm going to ask you a quick question on planning. Is always being a planner, we always seem to be the problem in the system. What is the problem in helping, or hindering the development of innovation and in new communities and in the way that you're doing your work at the moment? And what can we do to better that?
I don't really like pointing out problems, but I think what could we be doing to, unshackle a bit more innovation? I think we're talking about development done differently. Anything different is often pretty uncomfortable, and I think it's been an incredible morning today hearing from the very top in the planning, the top seat in the state from planning, through all of the panels around how the conditions are right now to come and ask the question, can we do something differently? The National Accord, Housing Accord is almost giving us that license to have those conversations about how, whether it's Stockland doing things that maybe were a little uncomfortable at the start. Now we're seeing the benefits of land lease, but for a few people, that was probably uncomfortable commercially to think about. But the Gables project, which Bob was talking about, is a great testament to the success of that part of our business. The councils that I do a lot of work with in the front row here, no, I'm not afraid to turn up and ask them to do some uncomfortable things at times in the spirit of innovation. We've probably got a few examples around the country that I'd really like for us to keep pushing in the southwest. So I think Adam earlier on said that pipes aren't sexy and they're hard to cut a ribbon on. We've got projects interstate that are using recycled plastic pipes in lieu of, the council sort of concrete specs in different pilots. And whilst that might make some engineers a bit uncomfortable if we do that, but I'm sure if we could get the scale right, that's a conversation we could have, and I'm sure we could get Mayor Lown there to cut a ribbon on a pipe if we do it right. Also, there was great discussion earlier around the pattern book and what that's framing up for us. We think it's a really great start, and we're really excited to see how we can partner with local councils and state government to build on that and look at replicating some of the incredible Torrens title small lot housing we have interstate, where you achieve a 2-bedroom home with about 70 square metres to 80 square metres of GFA on a 90 square metre lot. Designed well with architectural designs, high levels of livability, Torrens title. Some people call it an apartment on the ground plane, and use that to deliver density within our master plan communities. So
Great. I put a question to Louise about a comparison, I suppose, with Northwest sector for Sydney Water. Was revolutionary at the time for Rouse Hill treatment plant for recycling water. I'm on that system. I'm in the ponds and I love it. It's great. And it's just one element. But what do you think is the difference between the Southwest and the Northwest in delivering innovation and dealing with climate change? Like you say, we do forget very quickly that drought can always happen at an instant, but how are we dealing with it? Southwest is a much bigger area. It's got different fragmentation and different arrangements, more councils. It's a bit of a multiplier of effects. What do you think we're going to see from Sydney Water that's going to be a little bit different to what we've seen for the Northwest?
Yeah. Great question. I think there's such a great opportunity here. We have this generational change happening, and also a generational change in the way we think about water-sensitive urban design. So looking at how we, if I start with wastewater treatment, I suppose, the way that we use that for recycled water, how we can create these kind of green, cool spaces as the climate keeps changing. Making green places for our communities is going to be incredibly important. Looking after the way in which we filter our water and bring it to our communities. I mentioned before being rainfall independent. We have these opportunities now as we start thinking about this infrastructure that lasts for generations. We're sort of thinking about infrastructure that's going to last, for the next 3 generations fundamentally, and what we want to do is put in place things that really matter. I think some of the other things that we have the opportunity to do really carefully through the Southwest is protecting our natural waterways as well. Certainly just a bit further north, where there's stormwater manager around Mamre Road and Erythropolis, and looking at how we can capture and use stormwater as a resource, again, to create green places for communities. So we're not the stormwater manager down here, but have lots of experience increasingly in how to do that. So there's some great things, even making waterways swimmable for local communities. So there's a really great opportunity while we manage the interim, the right now development needs and growth servicing needs, to also keep an eye to the future so that we create something really fantastic for the generations who are going to live here for a long time.
Great. We've got a few questions about modular versus standard construction. I'll put that question probably to Bob, but maybe to the whole panel. I think modulars now are something that's sort of coming out of the fore. Wanting to do it faster maybe is the thought, but also more efficiently. Is that something that we should be looking at, not just for tall towers, but maybe, smaller dwellings? Is this something that's a new thing, or is it just a bit of a fad?
No, definitely not a fad. And it's not that new. It's something that's been used. We've had a number of people come out from the UK with discussions about modern methods of manufacture. We've had factory-built housing here for a number of years, and that's to build all these manufactured homes. I think the important thing that Tom talked about is that adaptability, the ability to be able to change from that big house to the smaller one. And probably one of the most significant modern developments has been an approval recently up at Currumbin Waters, up in the Gold Coast, for a virtual land lease community. So effectively, you're going to build it up and you can effectively put your home in, pull it out like a drawer. But it provides another opportunity for people to house themselves in different communities. If they're going to live in Currumbin Waters, they're probably not going to be able to buy the house and the land, but they can lease a home that's within a high-rise. Now, we talked about high-rise, how helpful that would be in areas around here to get people living close to where they work, and I think that's the innovation one. I think we need to look at that development of the virtual power plants and make sure that extended to those things that Louise talked about, the water, the wastewater, how we treat that, and so that everything is done on site and each of these communities doesn't have to reach out and use facilities outside that community.
I'm going to ask a question. We're getting to time, so you're getting close to lunch, which is good. Is one question for each of you to answer, and you can take, we've still got a bit of time, but not a lot of time, is if you had a wand and you could ask for anything in particular from government, councils, anybody for that matter, what would you ask for if you could have it right now, and how do you think that would be the most impactful when we think about our communities, the environment, and the future generations for southwest Sydney?
Give us the new legislation we've been talking about for some years. It's been something hanging around for a long time, and we think we're close to getting it done, but that's what we need to bring it into the modern world. We're talking about things that were put in place in the early 90s, late 80s, still in place. We need to look at that and look at things like the modern methods of construction, the way in which we control them. We've got some really good tenancy type legislation that secures the people and their home within the community. That's way ahead of anywhere else. But we just need to get these other things, the development things, get it much better controlled in terms of how these things are approved in the first place, and then how they are built, and then how they operate. Because no good is having good rules that allow them to be built and to be operate if we don't have any land that is permissible for this type of development. So we've got to work on the planning at the very beginning, work on then on the building aspects of it, and then on the control aspects of how these things operate.
Great.
As the developer on the panel, it would be wrong for me to say anything other than faster approvals probably, but knowing how difficult that is for and easy it is to say, I'd say I would love the local government and broader authorities to work with us in that uncomfortable space where we're trying to do things a bit different or push the boundaries, be that to obtain faster approvals or innovate with other, newer typologies that can drive cheaper, more sustainable and housing and workplaces on the ground sooner for our communities.
Okay, great. Louise?
I really want to be facetious and say money.
You can ask for that too.
There's no getting away from the IPART determination coming. Makes a huge difference. So that's fundamental. But with my other wand, I would say one of the biggest things that makes a difference for us is coordination of planning and sharing of information in a timely way, because we can work really well when we've got good information and we can see what's happening so we can plan. So that it makes such a difference. And I think the work that everyone's doing, coordinating and working in alliances makes that so much easier for us to be there to respond in a timely way.
Great. I'm going to wrap it up there because I know everyone's hungry. Thank you very much to the panel and your input today.